about the hinge, right? The hinge is, now the squat was weight going vertical up and down. Now the hinge is more hips going back. So if you put that sensor on my hip, that hip is going back, and I'm trying to keep a nice neutral spine here, okay? So this is a squat. You can actually see the displacement of my body up and down. This is more of a hinge, all right? So what are some variations that we're gonna work on? Well, one of my favorite, because it develops some good length down the back side of the body, but also some strength, is what we call the Romanian deadlift. So with that, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna push my hips back as far as I can, and I'm basically keeping my knees, they're not staying straight, so I'm not locking my knees out and doing this, but I'm keeping my knees right where they started, okay? Basically what that means is my shins, my lower legs, they're staying vertical straight up and down. And I'm gonna push the hips back. I'm gonna keep those shins vertical. I'm going as far as I can, keeping my spine neutral and loading up my butt and my hamstrings, and then coming back tall there. So that is our traditional kind of Romanian. That's what we're gonna work on a lot. If we get into more of a barbell deadlift or a trap bar, which is that, if you've ever seen that one that you stand inside, you're gonna have to bend your knees a little bit. So there's some variation there. And what happens is, you try to stick the hips back as far as you can, and then you bend the knees, and we're going from there. As we increase that depth or that challenge, you have to play around with that. To keep it simple for you guys, we're either gonna be talking about a Romanian kind of more stiff-legged deadlift, or we're gonna be talking about kind of a single leg Romanian deadlift. So the best place to start is just a kettlebell deadlift. What I like to do, you can do this with a dumbbell as well. What I like to do is get the feet a little bit wider than shoulder width. Maybe we're splaying those toes out again. And now I have the weight here, and I'm slowly, again, that 4 or 5 second tempo down. I'm going to the end of my resistance, and then I'm driving up through the hips. I let the hips come back. I let my arms hang, and we're dropping down. And then I squeeze the hips and drive the hips forward to come up tall. All right, so you should really feel that through the glutes, through the hamstrings, and somewhat in the low back, but it should not be heavy in the low back. I'll show you a side view here. Notice how as the hips go back, my knees stay right where they started, my shins are vertical, and my spine is mostly neutral. It's not straight, but I'm just keeping that original spine angle that I have when I start, those original spinal curves. So we can go 3, 2, 1, bottom, and then squeeze the cheeks and drive the hips forward. So squeezing the cheeks forward, and I'm driving my hips forward. I'm doing that more than pulling straight up with my back, if that makes sense, right? So that's kind of the kettlebell Romanian deadlift. And then at some point, a lot of these exercises, much like the squat, going from a traditional to a split, now this, we're gonna turn into a single leg deadlift, where I'm holding the weight, or I'm not holding any weight to begin with maybe, but we're just gonna teeter-totter forward, oh boy, teeter-totter forward on one leg, drive that other leg back, and then come back up tall. So the pattern overall is the same, but I'm now putting that through one hip, and my other leg is kind of going back again. So it's that type of movement there. All right, hips going back, hips coming tall. We'll talk through that. You're certainly not going to start with a single leg in the program. If you get through it and we talk and it's really, really easy, we might progress you to the single leg. Typically, not always. There's no straight line with this stuff. Some people, I want them to get really, really heavy with the double leg and then progress to getting really, really heavy with the single leg. I would say, barring pain, back pain, any other issues, that's kind of the goal. If you have back pain, believe it or not, sometimes the single leg might work better than the double leg, and we might have to play around with things a little bit. So there's no significant linear progression, or no obvious linear progression with this, but a lot of people, if they're just on performance, we're going to teach them the double leg first and then get them to the single leg, which obviously has the benefits of stability and balance and all that good stuff there. So that is a hinge variation. Again, in your programming, we will probably start with that very simple kettlebell Romanian deadlift going to a step or something like that. So you're not going all the way down to the ground. And this is one where we start with the weight light. If you feel like you're having a hard time getting that form and that pattern down, then we're going to want to hop on an individual call and figure that out. So.